A strange and troubling silence is falling over our fields and orchards. The gentle hum of the honeybee, a sound that has long been the background music of summer, is growing fainter. Recent reports from the winter of 2024 to 2025 paint a devastating picture, a crisis that has been brewing for years but has now reached a catastrophic peak. Beekeepers across the United States have reported unprecedented losses, with some losing as many as 3/4 of their colonies. These are not isolated incidents, they represent a widespread collapse, a die-off so severe that it threatens the very foundation of our food systems. This is more than just an agricultural problem, it is an ecological alarm bell ringing with deafening urgency. We are witnessing a tragedy unfold in real time, a quiet apocalypse happening in millions of tiny wooden boxes. The scale of this disaster is staggering. Imagine over 1.7 million beehives, each a bustling city of tens of thousands of individuals, simply vanishing over the course of a single season. The economic cost is immense, estimated at over $600 million, but the true price is far higher. These bees are not just honey producers, they are the unsung heroes of our food supply. They are tiny, winged farmhands, tirelessly working to pollinate the crops that end up on our tables. Without them, the production of most of our fruits, nuts, and vegetables would plummet. This recent die-off is a stark warning that the intricate web connecting bees to our own survival is dangerously frayed, and we are running out of time to mend it. The bees are not simply disappearing, they are dying in a spiral of sickness and stress. The final scene inside a collapsing hive is a grim one. The colony, once a vibrant and populous community, dwindles rapidly. The workforce of adult bees dies off faster than the queen can possibly replace them, leaving behind a dwindling cluster of survivors, a failing brood, and ample stores of honey that they no longer have the numbers to defend or consume. This phenomenon, often called colony collapse disorder, is the end result of a complex array of problems. It is a symptom of a deeper sickness, one that has been exacerbated by a single, formidable enemy that has relentlessly pushed our bees to the brink of existence. This silent spring for our most important pollinator has been years in the making. For decades, beekeepers and scientists have watched with growing concern as a multitude of threats converged upon the honeybee. We have subjected them to a cocktail of pesticides, deprived them of their natural floral habitats, and trucked them across the country in stressful migrations to pollinate vast monoculture crops. While these factors have undoubtedly weakened them, the recent record-breaking losses point to a primary culprit, a final straw that has broken the honeybee's back. A tiny parasitic mite has tightened its grip, turning these other stressors into a fatal combination and accelerating the bee's march towards oblivion. At the heart of this crisis is a minuscule yet monstrous parasite named Varroa destructor. The name itself is a chillingly accurate description of its impact. This external mite is the honeybee's worst nightmare, a vampire-like creature that latches onto both adult bees and their developing young. It feeds on their fatty tissues, weakening its host and shortening its lifespan. A few mites in a strong, healthy hive might be a manageable nuisance. However, when their populations explode, they become an overwhelming force, draining the life from the colony one bee at a time. The mite is not a new enemy, but its relentless pressure has now pushed honeybee populations past their breaking point, triggering the catastrophic death spiral we are seeing today. The Varroa mite is more than just a parasite. It is a highly efficient delivery system for a host of lethal viruses. As the mite feeds, it acts like a dirty needle, injecting deadly pathogens directly into the bee's circulatory system. The most notorious of these are the deformed wing virus and acute bee paralysis virus. In a healthy colony with low mite levels, these viruses might exist at benign levels. But as Varroa populations surge, they amplify and transmit these viruses with devastating efficiency. The result is a pandemic within the hive. The viruses cripple the bees, causing the telltale deformed wings that render them unable to fly and leading to paralysis and premature death. The spread of these viruses transforms the colony's internal dynamics into a race against time, a race the bees are now losing. Infected adult bees have significantly shorter lives, meaning the colony's workforce of foragers depletes at an alarming rate. At the same time, the viruses attack the brood, the developing baby bees, killing them before they can even emerge or ensuring they are born too sick to contribute. The queen continues to lay eggs, but the rate of death outpaces the rate of birth. The hive's population plummets, and the complex social structure that allows it to function breaks down completely, leading to the colony's ultimate and rapid collapse. This deadly synergy between the mite and the viruses it carries is the primary driver of the massive die-offs witnessed in late 2024 and early 2025. A USDA study released in August 2025 confirmed what many beekeepers feared. The Varroa mite is the main culprit. It is the vector that turns manageable viral loads into an unstoppable plague. The mite has created a perfect storm within the hive, a feedback loop where more mites mean more viruses, and more viruses mean weaker bees that are less able to defend themselves against the mites. This vicious cycle is the engine of the bee death spiral, pushing millions of colonies over the edge into oblivion. For years, beekeepers have fought a chemical war against the Varroa mite, relying on a small arsenal of miticides to keep the parasite in check. These treatments were once the last line of defense, a crucial tool that allowed beekeepers to manage mite populations and prevent them from reaching catastrophic levels. However, we have been fighting a foe that is incredibly adept at evolving. The Varroa mite has a remarkable ability to develop resistance to the chemicals we use against it. This is not a new problem. Since the 1980s, the mite has systematically overcome at least 4 major classes of miticides, forcing beekeepers to constantly search for the next effective treatment. We have been running a chemical marathon, and we are now out of breath. The current crisis has been triggered by a devastating development, the widespread failure of amitraz. This synthetic acaricide was the last widely effective chemical weapon in the beekeeper's arsenal. It was the go-to treatment, the one product that could still reliably knock back Varroa populations. But recent USDA screenings have delivered the worst possible news. Mites collected from across the country now show universal markers for amitraz resistance. The chemical that once protected our hives is no longer effective. This means that beekeepers are now facing a super parasite, a Varroa mite, that can withstand our strongest chemical attacks, leaving colonies almost completely defenseless against its relentless assault. The history of miticide resistance is a cautionary tale about the dangers of over-reliance on a single solution. Each time a new chemical was introduced, it was only a matter of time before the mites adapted. By rotating treatments and using integrated pest management strategies, we could have perhaps delayed this outcome. But the economic pressures of commercial beekeeping and the lack of new approved chemicals created a situation where beekeepers were forced to use what worked, often repeatedly. We have effectively trained the mite to survive our best efforts, selecting for the toughest and most resistant individuals, and now we are facing the consequences of this short-sighted chemical warfare. This complete failure of our chemical controls leaves the beekeeping industry in a perilous position. Without an effective miticide, controlling Varroa populations becomes an almost impossible task. The mites can now multiply unchecked, leading to the viral surges that are wiping out hives. It is a desperate situation that underscores the urgent need for a paradigm shift in how we approach Varroa management. We can no longer simply hope for a new miracle chemical to save us. The era of easy solutions is over. We must now look towards more complex, integrated, and sustainable strategies if we are to have any hope of turning the tide in this losing battle. While the Varroa mite and its associated viruses are the immediate cause of death, they are not acting in a vacuum. Our bees are being weakened by a host of other man-made stressors that make them far more vulnerable to the parasite. For decades, we have been systematically eroding the health of our bee populations through modern agricultural practices. Pesticide exposure is a major factor. Studies have found that nearly 90% of pollen collected by bees in agricultural landscapes is contaminated with a cocktail of chemicals. These neurotoxins may not kill bees outright in low doses, but they impair their immune systems, navigation, and foraging abilities, making them less resilient to diseases and parasites like Varroa. Poor nutrition is another critical stressor. We have replaced diverse, flower-rich landscapes with vast monocultures, endless fields of a single crop. While these crops may provide a temporary feast for bees during their short bloom, they create a nutritional desert for the rest of the year. Just like humans, bees need a varied diet from diverse pollen sources to be healthy and maintain a strong immune system. A diet restricted to corn or soybean pollen is the bee equivalent of living on nothing but bread. This chronic malnutrition weakens the entire colony, making it an easy target for the Varroa mite and the viruses it spreads. Habitat loss, drought, and the stress of long-distance transportation to pollination events only compound this problem. The crisis within the honeybee hive also poses a grave threat to wild pollinators. The high density of infected honeybee colonies, especially during massive pollination events like the California almond bloom, creates a perfect environment for viral spillover. Diseases like deformed wing virus can easily jump from managed honeybees to wild bumblebees and other native pollinators. These wild bees are essential for maintaining the health and resilience of our natural ecosystems, pollinating the wildflowers and plants that honeybees might ignore. By allowing our honeybee colonies to become disease reservoirs, we are not only threatening our food supply but also jeopardizing the delicate balance of our wider environment. The path forward requires an urgent and fundamental shift in our approach. We must move beyond a singular focus on chemical treatments and embrace a holistic ecological strategy. This means developing and deploying new non-chemical Varroa controls, such as brood breaks and the breeding of mite-resistant bees. Critically, we must also address the environmental stressors that weaken bees. This involves reducing our reliance on harmful pesticides, restoring floral diversity to our landscapes by planting wildflower strips, and supporting farming practices that promote biodiversity. Protecting honeybees is not just about saving a single species, it is about restoring the health of our entire agricultural and natural world. The time for small measures is over. We need bold action now.